Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And I was sitting around today on the back patio, having some coffee, and I was texting my husband, and we're gonna have a movie night tonight. So we were trying to kind of decide which movies we were gonna watch, and I have not seen Love, Simon, and so I texted him and I said, I really wanna see Love, Simon. I think it just came out on DVD. And he was like, no, it doesn't come out till next week. I just saw that it doesn't. And I was like, oh, I want to see it so bad. And he knows like how invested I get in watching book to movie adaptations. And my guess is that if you're a reader or you're a bookish person out there and you read a lot of books, you probably love book to movie adaptations too. And the problem is I'm always very afraid. I want to see the movie so bad, but I'm afraid to see it at the same time because I'm like, I hope it doesn't like ruin the book for me, or I walk away and I'm real disappointed in it. And I've heard so many good things about Love, Simon, so I'm not afraid to see that movie. But I have to say, there are a lot of books out there that have absolutely made me go, I don't think they got this book at all. Like, I don't think they understood it. I don't think they understood the characters. I think this was a bad representation of what they did. And so I'm going to do another video, and it's going to be my least favorite book to movie adaptations. But today is my favorite book to movie adaptations, and I have 10. And it was interesting because when I was thinking about it, there were a lot of movies that are based on books that I've actually not read the book. So I was like, well, I'm not going to count that. I'm only going to count books that I've actually read that have been made into movies, if that makes sense. So let's get right into this. There are 10, and what I would like you to do is put in the comment section below what your favorites are, because there might be some that I have never seen. There might be some books that I haven't read. I would love to hear, you know, and I think that while I do this, like I think an hour later probably what will happen is like, damn it, I forgot about that one. Damn it, I forgot about that one. So I may make another, video about this topic down the road, because I love books and movies so much, equally almost, I really do, but I think that it takes like a certain master to turn the great book into the great movie, if that makes sense. Okay, so I have 4 that I have listed down, and then I have 6 physical copy books. The 4, I think 2 of them I have in the basement. Well, one of them I know for a fact that I have down there. So the first one that I have on my list is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I talked about this at length in my vlog last night. So if you want to know what I talk about in my vlog, I talk about all kinds of things. But I was talking about like a summer way when I was like 19, I think 20 years old. And for a whole summer, I read like all expatriate literature. Gertrude Stein, Hemingway, Somerset Maugham. I read like all the people that were like, over in Paris. And F. Scott Fitzgerald was probably my favorite author of that time. And I would say that The Great Gatsby is my second favorite Fitzgerald book. My number 1 favorite book by him is Tender as the Night. I mean, absolutely my favorite book of F. Scott Fitzgerald's. And, but I love the movies, The Great Gatsby. And I love the original just as much as I love the remake with Leonardo DiCaprio. I think they're so completely different, that I just think they're so fantastically done in their own right. The first one, the original that came out, I think it's with Robert Redford. I think it's just like, I remember being so just blown away by how, Daisy was captured in that book. And on a side note, if I had been a girl, I would have either been Daisy from The Great Gatsby, or I would have been Phoebe from The Catcher in the Rye, because my mother was a bookish person. So anyway, I think Daisy is such a tragic character, and I think she was so well played in both movies. But that's one of my favorite book-to-movie adaptations. My next one is Jurassic Park. Now, I don't talk a lot about like pop fiction, literature and things like that. But there are a couple authors that I have read everything by, and Michael Crichton is one of them, and he passed away years ago. And I have literally read everything by Michael Crichton. I think the only one, actually, that I haven't read is The Great Train Robbery. But other than that, I've read everything by Michael Crichton. He is such a fantastic author. I mean, you want to talk about research? His research is unbelievable. And I also love Dan Brown. Oh, I should have put Dan Brown on this list too, because I loved, well, you know what? I don't necessarily love like the Da Vinci Code, the movie. It wasn't as good as the books. The Dan Brown books are fantastic compared to the movies. And he's another one that I've read everything by. But Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton is probably one of my all-time favorite movies. Literally, every time it comes on TV, I can watch it. And yes, I'm getting ready to go see the next one this summer. I think it comes out the end of this summer. I'm so excited about it. I cannot wait to see the next Jurassic Park movie. I've seen them all. I think they're all good. I know that some are better than others, and I agree, but there's just that whole feeling. I remember the very first time I saw it in the movie theater, and I had read the book. On a side note, I got sober 23 and a half years ago, and I read all the Michael Crichton books when I was in treatment. So there's a special connection for me with Michael Crichton. If you want a Michael Crichton suggestion, read Sphere. It's one of the greatest books ever. But Jurassic Park I loved, and so I still love the movie. The next one is Silence of the Lambs, and I have a copy of this in the basement because somebody just sent this to me, and I have it in a section that I'm thinking about putting it into my book club, Peter's Book Club, listed below, that we read books, you know, pop culture books. And so I'm thinking about Thomas Harris's Silence of the Lambs. I mean, what an incredible movie too, right? I mean, it is one of my favorite movies, let alone book. And that for me is when I feel like the book to movie adaptation is just like so triggered and so perfect, is when the movie is almost just as good as the book. And for Silence of the Lambs, that's how I feel. I think they're both equally fantastic. And the fourth one that I have written down is Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk, and the movie with Brad Pitt. I mean, such a fantastic movie, such a fantastic book. I loved both of them. On a side note, I didn't include it because I liked the book, but it's a novella, but I didn't love it as much as I loved the movie, and that was Brokeback Mountain. And my mom bought me the novella, and I read it for Booktubeathon, I think 2 years ago. And it's by Annie Proulx, and it is a fantastic novella. It's very short. It's beautifully, poetically written, absolutely poetically written. But I think that I could have gone without having to have ever read the book and just seen the movie. So let's get into my physical copies of what I have. Well, let's go with the first one because I don't think this will surprise anybody. My favorite book and movie of life is To Kill a Mockingbird. Absolutely, hands down, my favorite book and movie of all time. And, you know, this is one thing I've said on my channel a lot if you've watched it consistently. I like the movie To Kill a Mockingbird better than I like the book. And I know it's crazy, but like I think it's just because I watched the book more, or watched the movie more when I was watched the movie more when I was growing up. And you know, to this day, I still get messages from people that say, I got To Kill a Mockingbird because you had mentioned it so many times in your videos and I've never read it before. And I'm like, oh my God, to be introduced to the world of Scout, you know, Jim and Dill and Atticus now, I think. I don't know what would happen to me if I read it today. Maybe it wouldn't have any influence on me. But I almost am tempted to tell people half the time, just skip the book and watch the movie. But there's so much about the book that's not in the movie. There's so many like characters and storylines. So you have to read the book too. And I just read it for the last time in November. But the movie, I mean, the movie is fantastic. So you gotta go check that out. Okay, the next one, this is kind of interesting that I put this on here, but is Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And I have read this so many times. Honestly, I mean, it's a quick read. I've read it so many times. Last Christmas, I made a deal that I was gonna watch as many Christmas movies, read as many Christmas books as I could. And I was really, if you don't celebrate Christmas, I respect that. But I was going to really celebrate Christmas through movies and books as much as possible. And I literally watched like every version. I mean, even the Mr. Magoo's Christmas. I watched every version of A Christmas Carol. And I have to say that my favorites are, and some of this is gonna be kind of funny. I really like Mickey Mouse's Christmas Carol. I love that version of it. I love the Patrick Stewart version, but it's very depressing. I love the Jim Carrey Pixar version. I think that might be my favorite, you know? But they're all so different, even though they're the same story. And I remember growing up as a kid, like we would go every Christmas and see this at the theater here in town. And it was like every year it was a little bit different. But the one thing they did in common that I loved was that it would always snow on stage at the very end, you know, when Tiny Tim would come out. And to this day, it's one of my favorite stories of life. I think it's a book and it's a story that you can read any time of year, but I'm gonna put it over here because I don't need to read it in June right now, okay? My next one is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. It's literally the book that made me fall in love with John Green. You know, I did not love Turtles All the Way Down. It wasn't one of my favorite books, but I'm still a huge fan of John Green. I even made a video on my channel like a year and a half ago called Never Too Old to Fanboy over John Green. And this movie, I mean, the book just blew me away, and I'll never forget, I took my husband to this, and he had no idea what it was about, right? And I said to him, I go, are you ready to see this movie? And he goes, well, what's it about? And I was like, well, it's about two kids that meet in a cancer support group. And he goes, I didn't know that you were bringing me to a tearjerker, and my husband doesn't cry a lot through movies at all. And actually, the first movie he ever cried in with me was We Bought a Zoo with Matt Damon. And I don't know why that movie, but it is a fantastic movie. So I look over at him like halfway through the movie, and he is just bawling his eyes like, this movie is so good. So, you know, it was so well done, wasn't it? Now, Paper Towns, it's going to make my other list. It's going to make my least favorite book-to-movie adaptations. I was so disappointed in Paper Towns because I loved that book. But The Fault in Our Stars is fantastic. I wish that they would make a movie out of Will Grayson, and I think that would be really good. Boo Radley, you agree? He's over there. The next one, which I also read for Booktubeathon 2 years ago, but it is also one of my favorite movies of life. It is also my biggest fear in life, okay? And that is Jaws by Peter Benchley. And I had never read the book, so I've seen the movie 1,000 times. I've seen all the movies 1,000 times. My greatest fear in life is great white sharks. And sharks, period, actually. So I read this a couple years ago. Now, if you've seen the movie and you've never read the book, you must read the book because the movie, you must read the book because the movie is so fantastically done, but there is so much of the book that is left out in the movie. I mean, true story, there are so many things that are not in the movie. There's like huge whole storylines. Explains why they didn't want the beaches closed down. There's a whole romantic affair that occurs in the book that's not in the movie. I mean, it's a different story. It really is. So you gotta read this. Okay, the next one is, my husband would love that I put this in here because this is his favorite author of life, and that is Augustin Burroughs, Running with Scissors. And I have to tell you, like, I really struggled reading this book. Growing up having a mother that was an alcoholic as well as somebody that had a lot of mental health issues, I really struggled reading this book a lot. But it was really well done. It was absolutely raw, absolutely authentic. And yeah, there were some pieces in there it hit too close to home. The movie was, I mean, the soundtrack alone of this movie is so good. I mean, it is literally the soundtrack for an era. If you've never seen the movie with Annette Bening, it is fantastic. And it's just really, really well done. It's a great book, too. It's a great memoir. If you want to read a recovery memoir, my favorite recovery memoir of like a person in recovery of life is Dry by Augustin Burroughs. It's fantastic. And it's just hits the nail on the head. All right, my last favorite book-to-movie adaptation. Now, before you, I've only read the first one, and I'm not watching the other movies until I've read the book, and then I'm gonna see a movie. So I read the first book, we've seen the first movie, I made my husband watch it with me, we both loved it, and that is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. Did you think this wasn't gonna make the book? Or make the list? The other day, I even put it on the background because I was like, I'm getting ready to read Chamber of Secrets, and I was like, I think I need a refresher course on Harry Potter. And then it was funny because my friend Penny said to me, she was like, we were talking about it, and she's like, the first one is my least favorite, or she said the worst one or something. And she's like, it's kind of like you have to read it to understand the rest. And I was like, okay, because I really kind of struggle with this one a lot. And I really want to get into the world of Harry Potter. I want to fall in love with the world of Harry Potter because so many other people have. And I think that I'm going to have to just read them back to back is what I'm going to have to do. And really, whenever I read a series, I can't like read one and then put it away. I have to like read them all back. Are you guys the same way? I have to read them all back to back, which is why I like to read series that are all out. Or I just can't kind of really keep up with it. But I thought the movie was fantastic. I thought the special effects, even though they were a little dated at this point, were still so good. My favorite scene was like the Great Hall, you know, at Christmas, I think it was. And it just was majestic and beautiful. And I don't know, there was something about, I think, in all of us that would love to go to Hogwarts, you know, and be part of that school and stuff. So, I don't know, that's what I related to it. It reminded me a lot of growing up and kind of my dreams and imagination and things like that. But I love this movie and I can't wait to watch the rest of them. So, Excuse me. Oh my God, I started coughing so bad that I had to stop the camera. Anyway, these are my picks for my favorite book to movie adaptations, and then these plus 4. So here are the other 4. Put in the comment section below what you thought about my picks, if you agreed with them or didn't agree with them, and then let me know what your favorite book to movie adaptations are. Do not put your least favorite. Save that, because I'm making that video too. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.